Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Again, I am Katie Batesman, the Managing Director, Community and Partnerships at SheCanCode. And today we are discussing from psychology to SoundCloud, a front-end engineer's journey of impact and innovation. And I've got the incredible Dianna Simmons from SoundCloud with me today, who has charted a remarkable journey so far. And she's now shaping user experiences at SoundCloud, whilst also remembering to make a difference in her own community. Welcome, Dianna. So lovely to have you here.
Thank you so much, Kaylee. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on and having a chat about your role at SoundCloud and your experience as a woman in tech. But we'd love to kick off, if it's okay, with a bit of background about you to set the scene for our listeners.
Yes. Okay. So about me, I currently live in Los Angeles. I think are you from, I didn't even know that you were British.
Yes.
I didn't
Let
know
me
that.
tell you, I was going to be British.
No, I was, when you started speaking, I was like, oh my goodness, wait, I thought she was American. So I grew up on the East Coast in America. And I grew up in Maryland. I lived there until I went to college. I went to University in Maryland. And then when I graduated, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to be in Maryland. I spent my whole life there. So I moved as far away as I could in America, right? I moved to California. My parents were really mad at me. But when I moved here, I did a service program. I knew after I graduated college, I knew I wanted to give back in some way. So I was going through, I was like, should I join the Peace Corps? Should I join Teach for America? I was like, what should I do? But I was like, well, I don't know. Peace Corps seemed a little intense. 2 years, 2 year commitment. I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for a 2 year commitment. But I found City Year, and I mean, I've already had a background tutoring kids and working with kids. So I was like, okay, well, let me try that. And I mean, I'm really happy I did. I wish I did City Year actually before college, because I feel like I really became more myself, out of that experience. I learned work ethic and, how to balance volunteering and basically a lot of life skills, that I didn't have going into college. So was really thankful for that experience. And then after City Year, I was still in the kid track. So I became a behavioral interventionist, working with kids in the LAUSD school district. But then when I was working with them, I love kids. I really do. Obviously, right? All these jobs have kids, are kids related. I graduated from school with a psychology and criminology dual degree. So I thought I was going to do forensic psychology, right? That's like the most obvious path with criminology and psychology. And I used to love watching the crime TV shows. So I thought that would have been cool. And I've been working with kids. I'm like, okay, I can do something with psychology. I'm working with kids. But I was like, I don't want to go back to school. That was really it. I was like, I don't really want to go back to school, because I kind of just did it because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. When I went into university in Maryland, I chose psychology because I thought it was a cool class I did in high school. I mean, it is cool. I mean, psychology is very interesting.
It's a good,
But
solid subject, but yeah, where do you
yeah,
go?
no, right. And I don't know. I didn't really know. I mean, I kind of felt forced into college when I graduated from high school. I went to a Catholic school in the Maryland area, and they're very 100%. It was all girl high school. They're like, all of our girls go to college. So, if you send your girl here, she's going to go to college. She'll be, great professional, a woman of virtue, which I am a woman of virtue, but I didn't need to go to college to be, to become this person that I became. What do I want to do? I do love working with kids, but I don't really think I could do this full time forever. Kids are a lot.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I don't want to go back to school. So, and I live in LA, and LA is really expensive if you really know. LA
Yeah, I
is
can imagine.
yeah, right. So I'm 23. I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? I need money, right? I need to find what I'm actually interested in. And I remember in college, I did a general assembly tutorial for Java, which I mean, I don't know, if you're getting into engineering, you don't want to start out with Java. It was really not great, but I thought it was interesting. So I was like, okay, let me backtrack and maybe try to see if I could do that as a career. So I did another online tutorial for Ruby on Rails. Again, not a good starting point to do on your own, you know? And I felt miserably. I was like, I can't do this. I need someone to teach me, right? And I didn't want to go back to school. But I was like, well, I need a teacher though, right? That's like, that's just how I learned. I was like, I can't learn on my own. I need someone to like physically sit me down. So I researched, right? I don't understand like how people, whenever I meet self-taught engineers, I'm really impressed. I'm like, I mean, the concept, even like getting your environment set up, you know, I'm like, I don't understand how people really did it. But so I was doing research and I was like, okay, I don't really want to go back to school, but I obviously need to learn. So what do? I looked up boot camps. So I found a few boot camp, but the one at UCLA Extension was like the best price one. So so I went with that one, and I was like, oh, it was UCLA. So like, oh, that's kind of cool, right? Like, I'll have that name, but it really didn't matter. I could have just did this anywhere, right? But I did at UCLA Extension. I did the 6 months course, and I mean, you know, no regrets. It was the best decision I ever did, and I mean, a lot of people from my cohort aren't even engineers. So, I mean, especially the women. It was mostly like guys, and then like you know, there were women there, and we became really good friends, right? Because we're all going through the same experience together. And most of them are not even like coding now. They're just like I guess they use it as like a life experience. But I was like, wait, I can't waste $12,000, you know,
Right.
on life experience. Yeah, I was like, great for you guys, but when I commit to something, I need to be fully in. Otherwise, you know. So I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Once I graduated, I was like, okay, this is real life now. So what am I going to do now? I have all this experience, and thank God for my coding bootcamp because they helped me find my first job. I worked at a company called Lensable, and I had an interview there, and it was my first like tech interview. So I was really nervous, and it was in person, you know, before the pandemic. So I was like really nervous. I was like, I wore my Star Wars t-shirt, so I wanted to look cool. So I wore wore a Star Wars t-shirt and jeans because everyone was like, oh yeah, tech, you don't have to like be dressed up for tech. So I was like, okay. So I wore my cool t-shirt, wore my jeans. I was ready for like, you know, to answer all the coding questions. And then he literally just sat down and talked to me. It was so funny. We just talked for like an hour, and he was like, look, you're an entry level role. Everybody, you know, like, and you're coming out of boot camp. I know you can do an entry level role. I'm really more so interested in, are you like a personality fit? You know, like, are you willing to learn type thing? And I was like, I mean, I am willing to learn. I really just wanted my first job. Like, I'm willing to learn. I can help.
Yeah, because you never know as well what
No.
to expect in those interviews, especially if you've never worked in tech. Like, what do you expect in those interviews? If somebody just says that I can see that you can do the job because you've been through the boot camp, and actually some really good companies just think, you know what, we so desperately want more women in our tech team. If you're going to act as a sponge and soak up what we're going to teach you, then please come on board and we'll just teach you. So yeah.
That's exactly what it was. And like, I think he was like, it was between me and a guy. You know, he was like, well, I mean, there's a lot of guys like, you know, you want to try it? And I was like, yeah. And he literally, I almost think he kind of played me a little bit when I first started because he charged me, I was getting paid $15 an hour, which was less than what I was getting paid for working with, you know, kids. So at first it was a little demoralizing. You know, I was like, well, I did all this stuff and I'm getting paid not a lot of money because he wanted to try me out, right? I mean, it's such a man thing, but
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
it really is. But I was desperate. I was like, okay, well, at that point, I had been trying to get a job for like 3 months, and I was, you know, so and I was balancing like me practicing on my own to keep my skills sharp. Working, I was bartending at the time too to help me pay for that $12,000 boot camp, which I don't understand how people wasted money for that, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, I needed that job. So I did it, and I mean, good. Thank God I did it, right? Because then we got bumped up to salary, probably like 5 months after that. So it worked out. But
Yeah.
that was my first job. Yeah.
And then you have a career route as well, because it's fascinating how you went through that journey, and like that shift to technology. Like what was that? Was there did you see someone else doing it? Like it was somebody that you knew inspired you, or like how did you go tech? That's for me.
I know that's very random, especially as like I didn't I didn't know anybody who did this. Like I don't even know if I've met. Oh, actually, I was dating a guy. I was dating a guy who was in software,
I love the
and
fact
I
that you
was
nearly forgot him.
I really did. It's so I'll see him pop up on Instagram, and I'm like, oh wow, it's that guy that I
Yeah.
forgot that I was dating him, and he was doing it, and I
He's had
genuinely believe.
such an impact on your career, and you
Yeah,
forgot him.
I forgot him. He had an app, and he had investors and everything. They put him and his team in an apartment in Little Tokyo, and I was like, oh, this is so. I thought it was cool. I was like, wow, you get to live here for free, and you're working on an app. You're so chill. I'm like, what a fun life, But I genuinely think like, okay, like if you can do it, I can do it too.
Exactly. And it does take someone else to see it. We have loads of ladies in our community who say, my husband was doing it. And I noticed, like in COVID, when we were all working from home, what he was actually doing. And I was sitting there thinking, actually, that's a good role. And he gets paid well and he gets to work remote anyway.
Right?
And loads of
And
our ladies are retrained.
he was getting paid, and I'm like, LA is so expensive. I'm over here struggling, and you're living for free, So I was like, I really did forget about that guy.
I'm sure his ears are burning right now.
I'm sure he did message me. He was like, oh, so what coding boot camp did you do? Asking for a friend. I'm like, well,
A
it
good one.
works out how it's supposed to. Yeah.
Um, what about your experience? You mentioned City Year. How did that shape your personal and professional outlook? And are there any specific moments that had a lasting impact on you?
Yeah, I mean, so with City Year, I never have been like a very regulated schedule person, but they force you in City Year. If you're late 3 times, it's over. You're kicked out the
Wow.
program. Yeah. So that's for everyone in the program. So I mean, right then and there, I'm like, okay, well, I have to be on time. I need to make sure I'm dressed, and we wore uniforms to school every day. So, it was very regulated. But I think that regulation was good. I mean, I feel like I've always been pretty bad with waking up on time and sticking to routines and schedule, and I think that was good for me at that point. Especially coming out of college. College, I feel like you're like, especially senior year, right? You're the big fish. You're trying to figure out what's going on.
It brings some order as well to your life to get you in that
Yeah,
rhythm of like it's a nice entry into the workplace, I suppose, because it does get you into that routine. And by the time you
yeah,
go into the workplace, it's kind of, I know this, I'm
I
regimented.
can do it. But and then also it's about like leading a life and being a mentor to the kids, right? So like I had to they don't want people who aren't passionate about life and excited about life, because we want the kids to be inspired. And
Yeah.
I feel like I wish I can go back and talk to them today, right? Like I'm like, wow, I wish you guys could see what I'm doing now. I never thought I would be doing this at 22 when I was working with you. But it really, really, like, we were their role models, we were their tutors, we were meant to be that person that they can look up to. I was working with fourth graders, so I think that's also like, to live a more inspiring life. Even back then, like I kind of got that in my head, like I want to be that person for these kids. And even now today, I want to go. My plan is to start a program for high school kids to help them figure out, right, because I love working with kids, right? Can't get it out of my head. I'm 31, still want to work with kids. But I want to help them figure out what they want to do in life, and I didn't really, right. I went after high school. I went and I just did what I was supposed to do because I thought so, but no one ever really sat me down and was like, okay, like, what do you like to do? What do you find interesting? What are you passionate about? Are you passionate about anything? Like, like that type of those questions. So
Yeah.
I think about those kids, and I think about, myself and wanting to start this program, but it really, I mean, it inspired me for the rest of my life. I love City Year. I wish everyone could do a program like this.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you're so right. People leave school and it's like you're meant to have all the answers, and a lot of the time you don't even know what careers are out there and what jobs actually exist. Like that, we hear that so much in technology, where people say, I didn't know this role existed, I didn't even know I would be suited for it. So
Right.
inspire that next generation and say, actually, have you thought about kind of like what my role is like? I have a great role.
Do you really? I'm so now that I'm at this point in my career where I think I'm at a good place, but I don't know if I want to like continue down like the senior role or become a manager. I'm trying to figure it out. And that's why I'm trying to, I mean, it's kind of nice to talk to you because I really am trying I don't
And
know, right? Like I don't know. I don't have a lot of
yeah,
answers. I don't
talking
know.
it out, we have that. I've had that conversation on this podcast quite a lot with ladies who come to this like crossroads of, do I want to look after people that can be incredibly unpredictable, or do I want to stay siloed and work on my own and go off in that direction and work my way up? And it is that moment where you have enough experience where you can choose, and you don't obviously have to pick that and stay with that career route. But yeah, you are right, you reach a point where you think, what am I going to do next?
Yeah, right. Because that's where I am. And someone even mentioned consulting. They were like, "Oh, maybe you can look into consulting." So my plan for next year is to basically figure out, like what are my next steps? How do I also get this program off the ground too? But I'm like, I still need money, right? So I still need to figure that part out also. So yeah, it's kind
Yeah.
of life is hard.
It is. And sometimes being at a good company helps you to figure that path out, like where you want to go, and being at a company that isn't rigid as well and just sort of says, I can notice good talent and can say, like, have you thought about this? Some of our corporate ambassadors, we know when they're a good corporate ambassador because the ladies there, they don't tend to leave. They move around different departments, and
Hmm.
they say it's not a
Oh, that's
company that
interesting.
yeah, they just think, can I have a go in something else? And that company says, yeah, because we'd rather not lose you as talent. We'll, please go off and learn something new in a different department. And we kind of get a feel for the corporate ambassadors that have ladies that are doing that allow them to move around and move forward and try new things. So um, your experience at SoundCloud, I'm so interested to hear about what it's like to work at SoundCloud. Because as a front-end engineer at SoundCloud, what projects or features have you enjoyed working on the most? Because your job has this like intersection of creativity and technology. Like, what excites you about that?
Oh yeah, I love SoundCloud. I certainly never expected to work at a music company because that's never was like my thing, my passion, right? Like music was never like in that path. Besides though, I will say I'll nerd out for 1 second. When I was in elementary school, I'm still obsessed with anime. I love anime. I used to make anime videos with to music. That was like my like it was very weird. That was my hobby when I was like in elementary school. So I mean I liked music in that regard, that I could make, videos with it, but I never really had any sort of capacity with music. So working here, I mean, it's a fun company to work for. It's an entertainment based company. I was at an eyewear company before this, so much
Uh,
more fun.
it's
Yeah,
quite a difference. Yeah.
and
It's
I think what's cool about it is that it's still like kind of small. Like it's still a smaller company. But I mean, I think that's what makes it special though, is that it's not as big. So like, I mean, we had like literally last Thursday, the CEO invited some people out for lunch, like
oh wow.
he can do that, right? Because it's not like the hugest company. Yeah. And we literally, there was
Yeah.
like, it's like 12 of us. We just all went around in a circle and talked about our lives. It was really
Oh,
nice.
that's so lovely because you don't always get that from the top down at big companies. And you're right, people are suited for different size companies. And the minute sometimes a company gets too big and you start to lose that culture, then sometimes people move on and it's time for a new workforce to come through, those that really love that big culture. But I personally
Yeah.
prefer a smaller company where you have
Yeah.
that team culture, and everybody I've spoken to so far at SoundCloud agrees with that. You have that sort of family culture without it being too overbearing, because I'm not
Yeah.
into the family culture vibe sometimes,
Yeah.
but it does make a difference when the company is small enough that you can, you know, be agile and still move forward without having to go through like lots of layers of things to get things signed off. Sometimes that can be a real pain to work in.
Yeah. I really lucked up in that way. Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you a bit about your volunteering work because you also volunteer as well. So your volunteering work with sharing love with others is very inspiring. And how do you balance though demanding career, your passion for community service? You already have said you've had plans to launch other programs. So how on earth do you balance all of that?
Yes, so I volunteer with sharing love with others. You know, obviously, like throughout my journey, I've had that desire to, you know, work with people and to volunteer. And I do think it happened from high school. I think they like indoctrinated it into me to like volunteer and help people. But I didn't really have a choice, you know. But I mean, I'm happy that, you know, that I did, like I had that experience and that desire to do it. So I typically will volunteer about once a month with Sharing Love with Others. I work with the founder. Her name is Maxine. She's wonderful. I text her all the time. I usually make their all their flyers that you see on all their socials. I make their flyer. I even have a Canva account just for them, actually. So I work with them and I make their flyers. And I mean, it's really special. I met her like 4 years ago when I used to volunteer with another organization working with middle school girls. I was mentoring middle school girls, and we go out about once a year to, you know, to show them and to show them different things and to volunteer with them. And I was introduced to Sharing Love with Others with another group, and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to bring the girls, you know, down to volunteer, so then to serve the food and the clothes to everyone. And it was like the best experience. Like she made everything really comfortable for the girls. And I mean, you really do see things when you're down there. It was a fight broke out like down the
Oh,
street, and I
no.
was like, oh, I was with the girls. I was like, girls, don't look, don't look, girl. But I was like, but this is real life, so maybe also take a peek.
Maybe just, yeah, just a little bit.
It's a little tiny peek, and then look away, and then come over with me. But I mean, yeah, it's been a great experience. I've been working with this organization for about 4 years now, and I mean, we had a Christmas event this past Saturday. I volunteered on Thanksgiving. Yeah, it's always a good moment with them, and and everyone, they know this organization well, like on Skid Row, so they come up to us to get the food and to get clothes. They'll ask like, oh, do you have any pet food? They have pets, so they'll ask for, well sometimes I have cat food and dog food to give out too.
Amazing.
But I mean, yeah, I mean, I won't. I'm planning on moving next year, and I'm going to be really sad to leave this organization because it's been really great. But I'm still trying to figure out how to get them like grant money and stuff, because it's really just her. And I mean, she really does pour all her love, and she's literally every Saturday she's out there and she makes big trays of food for everyone. It's really amazing that she has that time and dedication. But I can't be myself without volunteering.
Yes.
I don't feel right. Like I feel like something's missing. So that's what typically, you know, I always find a good organization. Like I mentor the girls, and but I had to take a break though
Yeah.
from that. I was mentoring girls and helping out with this program for about 2.5, 3 years during the pandemic. It was too much work, and I actually did. I got a little burnt out, so I stopped. I stopped for a while. So, but now I'm rejuvenated. So now, so now I'm
Yeah.
going to start a new program.
Yeah, and finding something that works for you. You are right. I volunteer, and when I sometimes I've been asked in a volunteer interview before about why are you doing this, and actually people always think you're going to go because I'd love to give back, and yes you do, and of course you do, that's why you're signing up, but actually you're right, you just said what I was thinking, that you're not yourself if you're not volunteering. So sometimes it's actually for you, and that time that I set aside for volunteering, I know it's for other people, but it's actually for me. It's me time.
Yeah,
That's the
it's
thing, you don't
almost like
feel right.
therapy in a bit. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I don't think other people get that. And like I'll tell my friends, "Oh, I'm going to volunteer." I'm like, you come with me. You know, we certainly will need the extra volunteers, but I mean, it's just I always feel unbalanced. And like my dad's a pastor, but and like he has a pantry, like a pantry back in Maryland to work to give food out, you know. So I'm like, I mean,
Wow.
I don't know if it's like a genetic, you know. I mean, yeah, but it's
Yeah, it's
just
just ingrained in you that, yeah, and you are right. I have friends that are volunteers, and I've known them, I met them through volunteering, and they've gone on to do other things, and I've gone on to do other things, and it is something that stays with you right through to even through to retirement. I know people that are still going, because I think once you volunteer once, it's there, and you just set aside the time to do it. Like you said, though, you have to be careful not to burn out if you are doing other things. But yeah, it is finding something that works for you, and then it doesn't feel like work anyway, because it's actually far more worthwhile than your day job, I find. So
yeah. And you know, one good thing about SoundCloud too, they're very, very big on giving back. So we have giving back opportunities within SoundCloud, and we can take days off to volunteer. You know, I
mm,
mean, I feel like I really I preach SoundCloud a lot because I mean, obviously we've gone through all the financial issues like every other tech company, but like at the end of the day, I know that they do care about their employees. You know,
yes,
and like, and that's just one way, right? Like the fact that we can just take time off to volunteer is like kind of crazy to me.
yeah,
Like I've
another
never,
one of
I've never
those
really heard of
things.
that.
Yeah, how to retain really good talent. Some companies really understand how to do that. Um, so as somebody that now has, has experience in tech, and you've been through that, what advice would you give to someone looking to transition into a tech career, especially those especially those without a traditional computer science background? We have a lot of ladies who just think, I can't do that. I haven't got a computer science background. Like, what would you say to them?
I mean, honestly, I tell my friends, I actually send my friends who are interested in tech an email that I put together. Like it's basically just a bunch of links of different jobs you can do in tech. So I'm like, you don't have to be an engineer, you know, you can be a QA person, you can be a designer, you can be a product person, you can be a project person. There are so many different jobs in tech that people don't tell you about too, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, or you can freelance and just do your own projects, or you can start your own company. You can do whatever, and I just really feel like the sky's the limit with tech, and that's why I love it so much. You know, it really has given me so many opportunities. I just made an app, like you know, like you can do just so much and so many things, and like you know, and that's what I love about it.
Yeah, I love that. And
Yeah,
you are absolutely right on, people don't know all of the roles that are available in tech, and that they're not all techie jobs either. And that more like working on your community projects as well, and the program that you want to start, just telling young people these are the jobs available. They're not always the technical jobs that you think they're going to be. And that's why this
yeah.
podcast was started, to share all of the different careers in tech, because people have this stereotype of going into tech and being technical and being a certain person. But actually, that's not true at all. And the ladies that we
No,
speak to on here, they come from all walks of life and find themselves falling into the tech industry. So we get asked a lot, is it too late to learn as well? And I think it's never too late to just think, actually, I could do tech. As long as like you grab hold of it and think, I'm not wasting this $12,000 boot camp.
yeah. I mean, I will always be that person. I'm not wasting any money if I spent it. But yeah, I
Committed.
mean, there's just yeah. That's just me. I'm a very driven, committed person. When I start something, I mean, even literally like this app. I started this app 4 years ago, like, and I was like, I can't stop it. If it was gonna be, you know, it's gonna be like that little hit, like your voice in my head. You better finish this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always time to start. Think about but I think you can also, going back to what you're passionate about, you can
Yeah.
do, you know, you don't have to, like, well, like if you're more a creative and design person, you can look into UI, UX, right? And look into that type of career. Or if you are more like a people person, you can look up partnerships, right? And marketing. It's just so many different things you can do, right? Like the sky's the limit. So just
Exactly.
research, start. I mean, I would say you can even ask ChatGPT or Perplexity, like, hey,
Mm.
like, what are all the different, tell me all the different things I can do in tech. This is what I like to do. What can I do within like a tech company, right? Like, I mean, and I think that's how you use AI to your advantage, right?
Yeah, I love that. That's a brilliant idea, because yeah, you don't know. I mean, we know people. that want to inspire and give back and go and talk in schools and tell people about their roles. But if you're not lucky enough to have one of those people come in and you're not quite sure, then yeah, that's a great idea to find a role that's suited for you in tech.
Yeah.
You have done a lot already, but I'd love to know what's next for you in your career and also in your community endeavours. And are there any upcoming projects or aspirations you'd like to share? I know you mentioned a project you'd like to launch. So yeah, what's next for
Yeah.
you?
This is a very loaded question because I've been trying to figure it out too. Yeah, the idea if I want to stay an engineer has been coming up, right? Like I'm like, okay, do I want to, now that I've been doing this since 2018, do I want to continue down this path of engineering? I have been working on my app. It's a happy hour finder. Do they have happy hour in Britain? I feel like they do, right? Like in
We do,
England?
yes.
Okay, yeah.
A
I
lot
know,
of happy people, yes.
right. So I mean, and this was, I mean, I used to love going to happy hour when like 4 years ago. I don't really go as much now, funny enough. But I made this, yeah, I made it for the LA, just for the LA area. So I'm gonna launch that next month. But even with me launching it, I'm like, okay, what do I want to do? And where do I see it going in the future? Is a question I've been trying to consider because it's been more of like a fun passion project, type thing, but I'm happy that my passion project is done now.
Mm,
And
yeah,
um
that's
and
cool.
and at first I made a website, but then as I learned more code, I started making it up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so
Cool.
that was that. So that's almost done, and I'm gonna launch it next month. So yeah, so I'm gonna do that. But I mean, I'm gonna and I'm planning on moving from LA to New York next year too. So I'm planning to stay within SoundCloud because I really do love this company, and we have an office in New York, and we're fully remote. So I
Amazing.
can, yeah, so it works out for me really nicely.
God, what an opportunity as well.
I'm also hoping to start the program. I mean, I'm doing a lot next year, but I want to at least try to plan out the program and figure out how if I want to do it more so school based or community based. I'm still trying to figure that part out, but definitely the program working with the high school kids, I definitely want to do that and try to figure out a type of future for that program. Share love with others. Yeah, I'm really sad that I won't be working with that organization anymore, but I'm going to be closer to home now. So I'm like,
I was
maybe I
going to
could come
say,
down.
yeah,
Yeah.
moving back to the East Coast, that would be nice to be back on. I know things are far apart still in the US, but at least you'll be closer to home than LA.
Yeah. That's my thinking too. It's like, so I mean, I've been out here in LA, for 9 years. I moved right out of college. And now that I'm older, I'm like, okay, where do I really want to settle, roots down and really, be my person and myself. And I think it's on the East Coast, so I
Yeah,
gotta move back home.
yeah. Well, we are already out of time. I would love to have you back on here in the future to hear about your move and your journey and how you're getting on still at SoundCloud and everything else that you're doing on the side as well, and that you managed to find that time to do everything else outside of your day job, which is inspiring in itself for our community. But Dianna, thank you so much for coming on and chatting about your role and sharing your valuable insights with our community today. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you, Kaylee.
To everybody listening, as always, thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to see you again next time.